morning, everybody. How you doing this morning? We're at the CBD Expo. You guys decided to figure out how to get your business to the next level? All right, sounds good. So on the panel today, we have data drives dollars, and we have some experts on the panel that help you grow your business. But real quick, I kind of wanted to do an audience check here to see where everybody is. And I like to break things in threes, in small, medium, and large. So like by show of hands, or you can clap if you want. How many are sort of in startup phase where you're getting into the business and trying to sort things out? Okay, good to know. That's most of everybody. It's almost everybody. So how many are sort of mid-level, maybe you're looking for growth models or cost reduction? Yeah, there's a few there. And then how many are more interested in being an investor and you're not really wanting to work in it?
One.
Oh, we got one. We got one. All right.
He's gonna get
So there's your money, guy. Everybody in the room is proud of that guy. Okay, so I'm Jason Troe from Cannabis 10X, and I'm here to moderate the panel here on data drives dollars, and we're going to figure out what CBD products the consumers actually want. So we're here to ask the experts today, and starting from your right over here, we have Rob Jennison, President and Managing Member of Loud Associates, and I'll ask you guys to do a brief elevator pitch on who you are. You might be able to do it better than I do. Tell everybody who you are, Rob.
Hey guys, so I'm Rob Jennison with Loud Associates. We are a purchasing and distribution company for raw material and finished materials, consumables as well. We ensure that our flour that goes into the extracts is above board certified, no heavy metals, no pesticides were used. And then we turn around and ensure that the extracts coming out are solventless, full panel on everything. The potency is what you say it is, and also allow the logistics to get to the purchaser to be on time, so their production doesn't slow down. Then we also come in with the consumable side of the business, which is more of a white labeling, where we manufacture products for you to brands and then do fulfillment for you. Trying to make it a one-step shop, and so you can focus on your brand and not have to worry about the product being delayed or under accredited.
Sounds good. Okay. And next we have Chris Franks. He's the CEO of Clever Funnel. What do you do, Chris?
As little as humanly possible. We help with the sales and distribution of all things CBD related. So we do everything other than the manufacturing stuff. So selling it, getting people to rebuy it, getting people to be loyal to your brand, all that sort of stuff.
That's good. Okay. And last but not least, Andrew Clark, the CEO and owner of World Class Health. What do you do?
Hi everybody, my name is Andrew Clark. I run a bulk wholesale and white label manufacturing company. All of our products are manufactured in-house and third-party lab tested. All of our hemp comes from the US, and we really pride ourselves on transparency and quality of our products. We can help you build your brand from start to finish. We have a graphic design team that can help you out with all of your labels, and we can make sure that they're to code with everything that needs to be done, and that's about what we do.
Sounds good. All right. So I like to use visuals here to make this a lot simpler. So if you would, real quick, to me this helps me kind of put things in perspective. If you're out loud in an ocean on a boat, we all have sort of an event horizon. That's just where the end of the ocean looks like it is to you. But if you move to another point, you see another event horizon. You move to that event horizon. Now you see a whole new event horizon. That's what I see out in space. Right? You see a satellite out there, and your telescope could only see to that satellite. But once you put a satellite with a telescope up there, the event horizon pushes forward. So what you're looking at, is their event horizon in front of your event horizon. You can't really see as far as they can see. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is push your event horizon farther than it is right now. You guys into that? Yeah. Okay. So if you're just getting into the business, you're going to need a fine product. How many of you are looking for a source for your product? You want a white label? Okay, a few. So let's start with that. What would you say, we'll start from the side to keep it in the same realm. So what would you say, Rob, is a few different ways to source your product?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I guess what kind of product would you be sourcing, right? And what's your market? So if you're, looking for, you obviously find your customer base and, really to get a better understanding. It's so for a raw ingredient, right? One thing that you want to look for is you want to go online. You want to, check, scope out what your, who your, what area, boy, Jason, I'm trying to think of the best way to, I mean, if you could really,
So you take raw biomass in, right?
Yeah.
So from a farm, it comes to you in just like bushy plant material, right? And you extract it into.
right, yeah, so basically what we do, is take raw, biomass, mill it, homogenize it, and then run it through, food grade, extraction equipment to get it into a form or a phytocannabinoid form that your product or your consumer is interested in. Whether you just want a topical that has just like a crude oil that has all the plant's fats, the lipids, the chlorophylls, which are really good for the skin, to the distillate that has no THC, that can go into like a vape pen or go into other forms, tinctures, as long as it's not too fatty and it's decarbed right, it doesn't clog up the dropper. And then you have like an isolate, which is kind of like a more mass-produced phytocannabinoid. It's very easy. It's always consistent. It's always going to be 99%. So you can formulate it. Just use the same SOP to formulate it over and over again. Whereas a distillate may come in at 75% CBD. It may come in at 85%. So you have to really have someone on staff that can adjust the formulations to make sure that your proper milligrams per unit is correct from what you label it on your brand.
So to simplify maybe a little bit, there's two layers he just told you how to do. You can source it the way he does by bringing in raw biomass and then turning it into, extracting it into an oil, a distillate.
Exactly.
And that's a process there. Or the other side of his business, buy it from him as a white label.
Yeah, already made, with your brand, everything along those lines, and you grab it that way. What you're looking to do. Do you have already a formulation that you're looking to use? A certain terpene? Again, it all depends what your customers are into. Are you doing a PM tincture? Are you doing you're just selling, a topical that, specializes in anti-aging, so on and so forth. I think the most important thing, Jason, is to know who your target audience is and what you're looking to provide them with for a solution to their, what their needs are.
Okay. And then, so we're almost to, you would be on the other side when you're trying to sell the product. So before we get to that point, so at this point, what's the cost difference to them in the startup that they're looking at, if they can't fund getting the biomass and the material and starting that at that deep of a level, then they'll pay, what cost difference there to get the white label?
Oh, there's a big cost difference. I mean, if you're going to be extracting the raw biomass and then put it into a raw phytocannabinoid oil or isolate, and then put it into a tincture, I mean, there's going to be a huge cost. Whereas you're splitting it up. Where you want to be. Do you want to buy wholesale the raw extract, the oil and the isolate, and then you have a food grade facility that you formulate your own tincture or your own finished products, and then you sell it? Or are you looking to take it up from the right step, just already have it made, already have the consistency there, and then go ahead and just put your brand on it and sell it, right? So it's gonna be a little cheaper, if you're just like anything. If you're vertically integrated, you can kind of cut cost, monitor costs more so. If you're just buying the extracts and then doing your own formulations, or if you just want to just have it all be done and then you just focus on the marketing and the branding, and then kind of go from that angle.
Okay. So then let's move down the panel here to Chris. I think you see on the front end a lot of consumer behavior, I would imagine, that's in terms of marketing, right, or selling.
Correct, yeah.
Product. So the perfect question there is, what are consumers looking to buy most?
All right, you guys want the good news or the bad news? You both? All right, let's start with the bad news first. Here is the bad news, and it's significant bad news. CBD searches and demand is diminishing. We have seen the peak of people looking to buy CBD by going to Google and going CBD, right? And looking for that. That has diminished. The first week of May, I don't know what happened the second week of May, but the first week of May was the peak, a 5-year peak of people searching. So we're actually seeing diminishing demand on people just putting a storefront out and going, hey, I sell CBD, right? So what you said was dead right. So here's the good news. The good news is there's significant opportunities, tremendous opportunities. We think that the market's gonna, go to 20 billion or 22 billion in 3 years, something like that. So like 100% growth. Where is that growth gonna come from? It's not coming from people that start an online store and be like, hey, guess what I sell? CBD. And I go, to who? And they go, to people that want to buy CBD. That's no longer a great strategy. The strategy that needs to be driven is exactly your point, which is who am I selling to? What is my niche market? And how do I want to have that conversation with the market? So as you source, as you think through about what products you want to sell, really it needs to be driven off that conversation of who are your customers? Who do you want your customers to be? And again, can you start a company right now and be like, I just sell CBD to the world? Yeah, you can do that, but you better be really well funded because you're going against guys that have been in the market now 5, 6, 10 years, well, maybe not 10, but 5 years or so. They've got all the search juice, they've got all the affiliate traffic, all that sort of stuff. So there is significant opportunities for all you guys that raise hands and you're in the startup world, but just going out and being like, hey, I sell CBD is not a great strategy.
Sounds good. So you need to find a niche audience that maybe like sports athletes or something like that, or the adventure.
I don't know, maybe like endurance athletes. There's iCore sitting over there. So yeah, finding a group of people that you want to serve and have the product serve those groups. So some interesting stuff we were just talking about, like the average age of people that buy CBD, it's a little bit older than most people think. Income's a little bit up, even though that's dropping. So identifying what those gaps in the market, we obviously do a lot of thinking around that at CleverFunnel, but for you guys that are just getting into the business, figuring out that market you want to serve and why.
That's a very good point. And I think that Andrew has a very specific niche audience, target audience there that he does this with, which I can relate to. And don't you have so you white label a product, correct? And you also have branded and sold your own product targeted toward people suffering from Bell's palsy, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. About 14 months ago, we had a gentleman named Kurt Platt reach out to us. He had Bell's palsy that he'd been suffering for about 12 years from this. We made him a special tincture with a blend of CBG, CBD, and other terpenes. We sent this tincture out to Kurt. He received it, on Monday, and he gave me a call and said, what's the dosage? How much should I be taking? When should I be taking it? All of that. I told him just to start off with a heavy dose of 100 milligrams and take that morning and night. He took the first dose right away, and he actually called me back about 30 minutes later, and he said, is there any way it could be really working this fast? I said, it's possible. And so he said that his anxiety was relieved almost instantly, and his stress level was way down. And then actually, about 2 hours later, he sent me a text saying that his friend had walked in and said, holy crap, Kurt, your face looks better. Like, this is the best I've seen it. And over the course of the next 3 days, Kurt had continued taking the tincture. He actually upped his dose to about 250 milligrams a day. He was just so excited to have something that was giving him relief. After about 3 days, he's back to 95% full health. And this is a process that we've repeated. Just last week, we sent the same tincture formulation out to a young kid named Keegan out in California, who his eye was actually stuck open. If you have Bell's palsy, it's half your face becomes paralyzed. The good way to kind of have it, I guess you could say, is with your eye closed, because that makes sleeping possible. When your eye is stuck open, I'm sure you can imagine it's very hard to get to sleep, as well as a lot of other things. Anyway, after we'd sent Keegan the same tincture, we put him same thing, 100 milligrams a day, and after 4 doses, so on the 4th day, I got a call from his mom, followed up by a bunch of pictures, And Keegan was able to close his eye. He was able to drink from a cup without using a straw. His smile was about 90% back, and he's crushing it. So I think one of the things you need to look for when you're talking about sourcing is what companies are putting out unique products, what companies are putting out products that other companies aren't putting out. I think that ratios are going to be a large thing here in the future. 2 parts CBD, 1 part CBN, 1 part CBG, something like that. I don't necessarily know if we have the exact studies right now to be able to put those formulations into place and say this is exactly what they do and this is why you need to take it. But it is something that we should all start thinking about, because I think that will be the future of tinctures and cannabinoids and CBD products. The other thing that you need to think about when you're sourcing is price per milligram. Tinctures are the most common way to take CBD, and I believe a large part of that is because of the price per milligram. In an analysis of all the different products, or not all of the different products, but 10 of the top companies and about 15 products that they all share in common with each other, tinctures were found to be the lowest in cents per milligram, with a, I guess you could say a value tincture being 9 cents per milligram on average, and then a super premium tincture being about 24 cents per milligram on average. And then you have, your face creams and face serums where you can range anywhere from 90 cents per milligram to $3 per milligram. So like these guys said, it's really about knowing your target market. And another thing to, obviously is very, very important when you're sourcing is the credibility of who you're sourcing your products from. In Colorado, one of the big regulations is the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. All of the CBD sellers should be on the CDPHE approved source list. So if you're going to be buying and selling products in Colorado from, a wholesale company, you should do your research and your homework and make sure that they're on there. And some other states have these same guidelines. In Utah, they're very stringent. You have to approve all of your labels, and all of your labels have to have every single third-party tests out there. So, microbial, pesticides, potency, obviously, heavy metals, residual solvents. So as states are starting to catch up on these, they're starting to put in more regulations, and it's really important that if you guys are sourcing CBD, not just to be sold in Colorado, that you guys are going to be following all of the regulations, with all the states, because right now there's a lot of different regulations depending on what state you're using. So just making sure that the company you're sourcing from kind of has your back in that regard, I would say that's very important as well.
Okay, so you mentioned some things here that I think Chris can help clarify. Compliance. And how do you advertise that to the market without breaking some sort of health claim?
Oh shit, how long do you guys have? It's very difficult. So you want to just talk 30,000 feet from advertising?
Sure.
Is that good? All right. Big news, I think a lot of people don't know this. You can advertise your CBD product on every single major ad platform in the United States. Cool, right? Sort of. All right, so programmatic ads, do you guys know what those are? It's display advertising, right? You can basically do whatever you want in display advertising. So you want to be cautious about any health claims, things like that, but you can advertise and drive traffic. Now, what we'll tell you is as we do our testing, we look at what's working in the marketplace. And it's pretty interesting because this is a new trend that's emerging over the past 6 months or so, which is quality is now one of the largest drivers when people are choosing CBD. So quality on the demand side is really important. Facebook advertising. Facebook advertising, it's possible. It is possible. Topicals only. So you can only use topicals. Now, I'll also tell you, any of these that you go through, you're going to get rejected 17 or 18 times. Don't worry about it. You just have to go through that process. Pay-per-click advertising, way more difficult. You can use Google. You can get ads approved on Google. However, you have to have a clean site, meaning that it can only discuss hemp oil on the site and no CBD. Now, it's a secret. Hemp oil and CBD can be the same thing, but that's what Google wants to see. They don't want to see your site have any mention of any CBD stuff. So now, on site and any advertising, you will get shut down faster than you can blink if you start to make implicit health claims. We all know that to be true. You can't say how much to take, you can't say what it causes, all that sort of stuff. So on any site that you sell CBD on, does that make sense? Now, I can stand up a site that says Chris's CBD reviews, and I can talk about health claims and things like that, so long as I'm not actually selling CBD on that site. A little bit complicated, that's probably 30,000 feet quick. You guys want to dive into any of this stuff?
So if you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's extremely, hemp oil, CBD, I think there's a huge, the terminology to a lot of buyers on both the retail side and the wholesale side, I think is very confusing. I mean, from a full spectrum product to a broad spectrum product to CBD oil to hemp oil. I mean, it just ranges so much, and there's really not too much, information. You gotta be careful what you put on the label, but you also want to let them know exactly what's in there. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
So you put lab tests on your website?
Can you? Yeah, you should. You should have third-party lab site validations, and that actually will help in the advertising process.
Mm-hmm.
So we could probably drill down deep there, but I think there's, like Amazon only sells hemp oil. It won't let you say you sell CBD there.
Correct.
So, and if you're going to sell something that is going to be targeting people with Bell's palsy, you don't want to say you're selling hemp oil. Right? So
Yeah,
it's a little
it's
bit
a
of a
challenge.
tricky thing
Right.
here. But before we dive too deep into one tunnel there, I think it might be a good idea to do a mock exercise that takes into account maybe a common position in the audience. You guys want to do that? I'll be a founder like you with a budget like yours, and you guys are my advisors, and I'm just trying to work it all out.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's start with a budget though. Whose budget is between $0 and $50,000 to launch your group? Okay. And who's between 50 and 100,000? Okay. And who is 100,000 plus? Okay. So let's say I'm coming in with 100,000, and I don't want to blow it all up front. That pretty much puts everybody in this exercise. Right, so I don't know who my target audience is. I want you guys to advise me and tell me where I should put my money and how I should get my product, how I should advertise my product, how I should choose my audience. Who wants to start?
You want me to jump on this grenade?
Sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Here's what I'll tell you. I think that I can tell you where the gaps exist within the market. I can tell you where there's opportunities that exist. What I can't tell you is what you're passionate about. And so I know people that are very exceptionally passionate about working with first responders, or they're exceptionally passionate about working with veterans. And so that passion, I think, can drive some of that early decision making. Now, where we can help you is start to try to identify what are your competitors, how to talk to that market, how large that market is, et cetera. And I'm happy to spend all of your $100,000. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm happy to spend it all. But realistically, you don't need $100,000 to go out and start testing that market. You can start doing ads for $50. You could start trying to find the demand that exists in the pockets and do these small tests to identify where the most demand exists. And so, yeah, I think it's really important, and I'm always going to talk about the data and analytics. But as a founder and as a startup guy, we do this work because we're passionate about it. And you need to bring that passion, because is starting a company easy? Really freaking hard, right? And you're going to have a lot of really tough days. And so having that passion and knowing who you serve, I think, is a really good place to start.
All right, so I'm Mr. Founder, and I'm saying I had Bell's palsy before, because I actually did. I lost function in half my face. I freaked out. I was like, what? Am I permanently getting like this? But maybe in 90 days, and it was 90% gone by itself. So I could relate to that one, but I don't think I want to just help people with Bell's palsy just because I have it. It feels like a very small, like a niche audience, although effective, maybe. I'm not sure I want to do that. Should I do that? Or what should I choose? Should I go after something like athletes? Because I think athletes are saturated. Everybody sells them. There's a lot of people trying to sell athletes, isn't there? Do you have any sort of advice for me to choose my audience?
I do. I've got lots of advice and opinions. Again, what matters is the data that comes out of it. All right, so here's what we know about CBD and the purchasing trends around CBD. We call it the big three. There is 3 reasons why people have traditionally bought CBD. You guys want to guess? Anybody? We talked about anxiety, right? Pain, and the third is actually inflammation, which is weird. Inflammation is way behind those big 3. But pain and anxiety are really big. So if I was looking at the market opportunities, and I zeroed in, and let's say, I don't know, let's use first responders, right? First responders are the people. I would then start to think through, okay, is there a group of these folks that have chronic pain? Well, I'm going to guess there's probably a ton of people that are first responders that have injuries, disability, et cetera. Or is there a group of those people that have chronic anxiety or chronic inflammation? And so that's how I would think about it in the very early stages. Look at the vertical and then start to ask the question around pain, anxiety, inflammation.
That sounds like a good start. So now maybe we're going after first responders and they have some pains and aches, and that makes me think, I wonder what the senior market is like. Is that saturated?
I would say no, not saturated. So early on in the world of CBD, we were having this conversation. The data was showing us that the average age of CBD was over the age, average age of a CBD buyer was over the age of 55 and upper income. Well, it was also because we were selling it for $120 a bottle, right? And so the data came back, it's like, well, people that were lower and mid-income couldn't necessarily afford it. Prices are coming down. We know that to be true. So is the senior market saturated? No, not at all. Now, I'll tell you as a marketer, it's harder to talk to those folks than somebody that's 22, but you can get in front of them. You can find that audience.
But is it possible that because it's harder to get in front of them, there's less people getting in?
Yeah, probably.
So so now we're tossing it in the air. I'm between first responders and seniors. Should I be thinking about a third?
I would think about 2 to 5 markets that I would start to test in.
Well, what are a few other suggestions?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing is, so let's take athletics as an example, right? You start to see that people behave similarly within similar groups. So I have a stupid hobby. I'm a recently retired Ironman triathlete, right? You guys know what an Ironman is? It's a stupid thing that takes you all day to do a triathlon, right? Triathletes believe that we are unique people on the planet. We believe that nobody else behaves like we do. So, one of the things that we do, and like we're does, is like, hey, this is a product for triathletes. We're like, yes, cool, right? Because it's for me. It's designed for me. It's a great niche for that stuff, right? Mountain bikers believe the same thing. They're all weird. They do the same thing. But mountain bikers think that they behave completely uniquely. Marathon runners think the same, all those things. And so, finding a niche audience, hockey players, soccer players, they all believe that they are unique in the world. So finding those sort of things just in the athletic sphere would be a good place to start. Can you find those gaps that exist that are not currently being served? And how I would do that is start by Google search CBD for soccer and see what comes up. If there's 50, then you probably don't want to do that.
All right. So there's 3. Let's choose one. How many choose one? Mountain bikers, first responders. What do you guys want to do? Mountain bikers, first responders, or seniors?
Hockey.
Hockey.
We can't see hockey on TV here, so I mean, I guess we got football.
Football? How many hands for football? How many hands for hockey?
Hockey fans.
How many hands for seniors?
Oh, good.
How many hands for... What's that?
Medical providers.
Medical providers.
Doctors, therapists.
Physicians.
Yeah, it's huge.
Is there a huge market for physicians?
The answer is I don't know.
Physicians, nurses, therapists.
Do they want to prescribe CBD? Is it medical? Taking it themselves, you mean?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Professionals who's dealing with stress, like lawyers or accountants.
Professional. Wow, is this professional?
Agents.
As an audience? Yeah, we can go a lot of ways with this. Was there anyone for first responders? Show of hands. Seniors, one on the hand showing. What are you guys in there? Seniors? Let's do seniors. All right, so we're targeting people at 55 plus. They have the money. They're hard to get in front of in digital media, you said. And so now we have to, let's move over here, Rob. We have to source a product, and also to, Andrew, you guys help us source product. Now we want to make sure we're not overspending, right? We're going to go after seniors. We're going to come back to that. But now how do we source our product and not overspend and make sure it's high quality and make sure the seniors are really going to get pain relief and keep buying our product, all that good stuff. Yes, sir.
I think the most important thing is when you're choosing at this point of the game, you would probably want to just find someone that's going to manufacture it for you. And I would make sure that they have all their certifications, as we were saying earlier. And because not every manufacturer is the same. Not everyone buys the same raw starting material, the same, the actual cannabinoid oil itself or the cannabinoid isolate itself. So first I would start with the certifications. Second, I wouldn't let them just sell you on going, hitting your one niche market and then having you spend the whole entire $100,000 on buying all this inventory that you haven't even sold. I would, more or less do your branding, find 3 or 4 or 5 different types of products that they have, whether it's topical, a tincture, a PM, any form of sublinguals, and then do market researches on it and just, test runs and, what sells and what doesn't. I mean, you could even, take orders and then just, from your customers and give them a 3, 5, 8 day window and, kind of get an understanding of where, what's selling more so than your other products, and then kind of, start off with 5, very broad, and then work your way up to 2 or 3 different product lines after you're doing your research on what is moving off your, whether it's a marketplace that you're selling it on, if it's just in your store or so on and so forth. I think the most important thing is just not put all your money and everything into one line of products, and I would kind of incrementally, see what is the best, what is selling for the way I'm marketing this, what is selling the best. And again, the most important thing though is the certifications of the manufacturer. Who is manufacturing this? Am I able to at least see the office space or the lab that's actually making this? Go in and do a backstory. Where do you get your oil from? Where is the hemp grown? Those are all very important things that I think you should talk to about with every manufacturer so you can get a better understanding. And don't just take their word for it. You can request certifications. You can request the Department of Agriculture certification of the hemp. You can request the full panel on the actual oil that is being used as an ingredient, just as well as the terpene profile, or if there's any other additives that you're using in your products. I think the most important thing is do your due diligence, really look into everything that's being used on it, and then maybe even hiring someone to do on the graphic side. What you're saying, that's great that you're helping them with the graphics. That's a huge thing, because that's what draws out, if your competition, one thing is shelf space, another thing is, how pleasing to the eye. I really focus more so on that, on your branding side, and making sure that, again, that there's not anything on that label, which is a lot of manufacturers may not be up to code with what can be on that label. And they just say anything that they know helps sells it, but it could be illegal. At the end of the day, the FDA hasn't came out with exact rules and regulations and guidelines on where this is all going to be going. So it's kind of, you want to, less is more on that label, I'd say. Be careful when you say, USDA certified organic, grown, because to maintain that certification as a farmer is very tough. You can never grow on the same plot of land, over and over again. So maybe they had a certification from 2018, do they have it for 2019 on that same plot? Those are just some examples of, what not to look for. FDA approved, even GMP certified. Is that facility GMP certified for processing hemp? Maybe it was certified before for making a lotion, right? And they're just rolling that certification right over to this being made in the same lab or the same manufacturing facility that making CBD on. Those are extreme things that I would really look into, and that's where they get a lot of first-time investors or first-time entrepreneurs in on getting their money is they have these certifications, but they're not actually applicable to the product itself.
Okay, so it's looking for a certified manufacturer to source it from, and a minimum order recommendation. Just keep your minimum order small, it sounds upfront, right?
I mean, usually manufacturing, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but I mean, usually you can do, I know, you can do, 100 units of one, 100 units of another, maybe wrap it all up into, a bundle, what can you do for us? I wouldn't necessarily just go all in with a tincture that has aloe properties into it and a CBD isolate that, is in it, it's not even working for the customers. I mean, try it yourself. If you don't use it, and if you don't like it, and if you are not pleased by it when you first look at it, I would really, really not move forward for it. Because if you don't like it, it's gonna be very hard to sell it to someone else to like it.
Sample it out. So we're out. So before, we have about 7 minutes, so I want to get to
Sure.
a go-to-market strategy before we're done. So real quick, would you add anything to that, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, it's, obvious that there's a lot of CBD brands out there right now, and there's more coming. So I think one of the things that you should really look for is unique products. What can these guys offer that these other competitors can't? Not just in terms of, the tinctures or the formulations, but also the packaging, like he said. What's some unique packaging? What does it feel like when you hold it in your hand? All of that is very important. The one thing that I might disagree with these guys about is that the athlete market is saturated. MLB and NFL, those are two of the biggest sports in the U.S., maybe the top two. Neither of those companies will let their athletes advertise CBD right now or be endorsed by CBD companies. So, I mean, you're not seeing Von Miller out there, posting about CBD or, any of the MLB guys right now. So once that stuff opens up, I think we're going to actually see, a boost in athletics and CBD products. So I think golf is huge. Golf is that's exploding for sure. Tiger Woods just a couple weeks ago, I think he was talking about how he chews CBD gum, and Phil Mickelson was, on camera at the Masters taking his CBD oil. Golf is absolutely huge, and that's another one is if you're gonna be marketing to golfers, you really want to have a high-end looking product. You want it to look very clean and have almost a medical feel to it.
Retired athletes are actually now advertising.
What's that?
Some retired athletes, NFL guys.
Yeah, Rob Gronkowski, right?
Yep.
The Gronkinator.
Yep.
Just spiked some CBD.
So that's good. That's a good point. So I know Medterra, they did a lot of golfer targeting. They did pro athletes at 0% THC and did really well.
Products in our golf shops, and they said that's the only product they've seen in the golf magazine. They did the advertisement, that's why the golf shops went out.
Yeah, that's a good one to consider. So we're keeping the minimum order small, and now we're going to go to market with it. Where should we start? What's our budget? Who we targeting? How we doing?
So here's
4 minutes.
here's the simple answer is that it's really hard and find some help. So if you believe that you've got a target audience and let's say golfers, figure out where golfers hang out online and start to try to get ads in front of that audience using that channel. And then, call us, we'll help. There's other people that do it. It's a big challenge, but the days of just using a couple of influencers or maybe signing up a couple of affiliates, those are really, really hard to do these days and are really messy. The affiliates have tended to start to be bad actors and are not held to the same standards that the brands are. Influencer marketing as an entire channel is now more difficult and saturated than ever before. So pick a couple of tactics that you think will get directly in front of your target consumers and spend your budget wisely in starting small and growing once you find tactics that actually start to work.
Sounds like a good start. So how about some questions? Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Just price point, what do you guys, is there anything specific that you're seeing out there, certain range of per item, per product? I know that's big, but anything you're seeing?
I'll show for this a little bit. I don't have an answer specifically on pricing trends, although it's something we should look at. We do a thing called the CBD Trends Report at CleverFunnel. If you go to cleverfunnelcbd.com/trends, we'll send you our trends report. I have not seen, across the board, prices are falling. So it used to be where people would charge a whole lot of money, and we're starting to see prices drop as more competition comes into the market. I know it's not a great answer, sorry.
I saw, yeah, it's right there.
Guys, if you can hang on 1 sec, let me give you the mic so we can make sure everybody can hear and we can get it recorded. Thanks.
I was curious, actually two things. You had mentioned that quality was now one of the biggest or the biggest drivers. I was curious if you could tell us a few of the other drivers that are emerging. And then also, what do you all see in terms of the most popular product forms? Are people moving away from capsules and tinctures and oil into beverages, into topicals? And just curious what you're seeing in the market and in your businesses.
As far as other drivers, quality right now is number one. There's price. Convenience is another one. Trustworthiness is becoming big ones. And I don't know because we just published the report, I think, this morning. So I don't remember, but it's in the report what those drivers are, where they're trending on that one. As far as individual products goes, tinctures are still the number one seller that we see. We obviously don't have access to tons of data there, but just with our clients, tinctures are still the winner. But you're seeing huge movement with targeted beverages. You're seeing big on topicals, infusion and gum and other things. I think that innovation for guys like you guys, we're going to see tons of that in the next 3 or 4 years. Infusion and things like that. There's a huge beverage line that just launched in California. I can't remember the name of it. It's like sparkling water with CBD infusion.
I think to also add to that, Andrew, is other cannabinoids, not just CBD, but now you have CBN and the CBGs and CBCs that are actually coming up to kind of diversify and actually, as Andrew was saying, the ratios. Those are really becoming big. I mean, the CBN is more of like a nighttime. I can't disclose. I mean, is what people think of it as the nighttime. They use that a lot for the ratios, and then you have the CBGs that have just a whole different effect. I mean, in the cannabis plant, there's over 113 different, cannabinoids. I mean, we just keep on finding more and more, and I would kind of stay on top of those new cannabinoids that are coming up and what the benefits are, and look to, if you already have a product line, spin off and do a ratio of something else similar to that. And also one more thing is smokable hemp. That's a huge market that's coming up on as well. A lot of states that aren't cannabis friendly or not recreational in cannabis. There's still shops and consumers that still look to purchase smokable hemp because it has the same terpene profile. It may not be may not have any psychoactive effect, but it's also it can help sway people off of cigarettes and tobacco alternatives to just personal wellness consumers. To finish that question.
Yeah, I think one of the big products that will be gaining popularity here in the future will be water-soluble topicals. If everyone's used CBD topical, obviously because CBD is an oil, typically you formulate it into other oils, and then you add more essential oils, and it just, it's very greasy, and so you'll be sitting there rubbing in your topical for, 5-10 minutes. You're starting to see more freeze-type products like BioFreeze, similar to BioFreeze, but with CBD in there. I think you're going to see a lot more of that because it penetrates the skin more quickly, and it's more effective, and you don't have to deal with the greasy residue. I think that's going to be very popular. What's that? Yes, absolutely.
Mm. All right, that was a lot of good information. Give these guys a hand.